As I reflect on the bill that we filed today, I'm reminded that every single child in this state and in this nation grows up with dreams. And as we celebrate Martin Luther King this week, I'm reminded of his dream that every child would one day reach their full potential. Today's bill is about doing exactly that and making sure every child in Florida reaches their full potential educationally. And on a more fundamental level, it's really about freedom and opportunity. And I've said before that the Florida way is about expanding freedom and opportunity. Ways like the California way is really about turning our choices over to elites that think they know what's best for us. And so today we empower parents and children to decide the education that best fits their needs. And one of the things I'm most excited about this bill is we currently have a wait list for children with unique abilities. And it is a tragic thing for a parent to have to say no to their children to have the resources that they need in this situation. And so this bill will completely clear the wait list for our children with unique abilities. And I'm very, very excited about that aspect of it. I'm joined today by some of our advocates for educational freedom. I'm excited to first introduce them and have them come up and spend a few moments with you. First up, Education and Employment Committee Chair Ralph Masulo. We'll next hear from Choice and Innovation Subcommittee Chair Kaylee Tuck, who is our bill sponsor, along with Representative Susan Placencia, as well as Representative Jenna Parsons-Malika. And I also want to introduce a few special guests that are with us here today and let them describe for you their personal journey and how Florida is empowering them to choose what's best for their children. We have with us Anjali Van Dree and David Brown from the Thrive Academy, as well as Jessica Van Hart and her son Colby. And we have Jamie Fusco and her sons Brent and Brody. So with that, we'll bring up Chair Masulo for a few comments.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Early in a child's education, we start learning to teach them about shapes. That even happens before they start to talk. We use blocks. And as they work with those blocks, they learn the beauty of our creation and how unique it is. And quite quickly, they learn that you can't put a square peg in a round hole. This bill empowers our parents with the freedom to make choices that are right and for their particular child. It empowers them with choice based on the child's aptitudes, their needs, and their interests. It empowers them to make choices that will lead that child hopefully to a productive career, a career where they will be happy and productive members of our society. I want to thank the Speaker for all his hard work. I want to thank the Governor for his vision. I want to thank Education Commissioner Diaz. I want to thank the bill sponsors, Representative Tuck and Representative Placencia, for their courage and dedication in carrying this bill. I also want to thank our team at Education and Employment that worked tirelessly with us on this and all our initiatives. I'm proud and honored to be part of this process because it demonstrates what good government is. And when you look at this bill, when you look at Florida, you'll realize that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, everyone. I think it's clear to us that nobody, absolutely nobody, knows the abilities and the needs of their child better than a parent. HB 1 will empower every parent to be able to choose the customized and tailored education system that fits best for their students. And as a result, we will have students who have the best education possible that fits their unique needs. Florida is committed, has always been committed, and will always be committed to providing the best education system possible. So thank you to Speaker Renner for entrusting me with this transformational education policy, and I look forward to running it through the legislative process. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I thank you, Speaker, for your leadership. My family is a school choice family. All three of my children benefited from school choice. And because of that, they are leading productive, successful lives. They are happy in their fields where they have chosen to be, And I'm excited to be a co-sponsor of this bill so that we can further help the families and parents make these choices and have these opportunities for their children. And I thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Speaker.
Good afternoon. I'm also not only a State House member, but I'm also a parent of an amazing child who has a unique ability, who's on the autism spectrum disorder, and his name is Charlie. And as a parent, we had to look for the best path to provide Charlie with the best opportunity. And we found that at home in Lee County in a new pilot program for a private school for children on the spectrum. And within days and weeks, we could see the change and metamorphosis in our son as he found things that were more passionate and started finding his purpose. So I'm so grateful for the leadership of our speaker. Thank you, Speaker Renner, for fighting for families and fighting for our children. We were able to give our Charlie an opportunity, and it's amazing that we'll be able to empower all of our parents and families to give their children the same opportunity. Thank you, Chair Tuck. Thank you, Chair Masulo. Thank you, Rep. Placencia, for taking this on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm David Brown, president and co-founder of Thrive Academy.
Good afternoon. I'm Anjali Vandry, Vice President of Thrive Academy.
So Thrive Academy is a nonprofit educational setting specifically designed to meet the unique needs of children diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And we're thrilled to be able to offer this to Southwest Florida and hopefully to be a model for other sites across Florida to really pursue this effort. For us, we want to transform beyond the academic curriculum that children traditionally receive. For us, we're really looking for independence, self-sufficiency, self-advocacy, and social competence so they can go out into the world and into our community and thrive. And we're incredibly grateful to the speaker. I just can't say enough about Speaker Renner, to the bill sponsors, to the House as a whole. Just thank you so much for providing this opportunity for our families. I know the demand is going to be significant in relationship to the families that we talk to every day. And so we're grateful for families that have the freedom to make a choice about education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a mom of a son on the autism spectrum. I'm here today to thank everyone for sponsoring this bill and putting this forward because it means a lot to me. It means a lot to families like me. My son needed a more unique way of education that would be more focused on building skills and life after high school. He is very mechanically inclined. He doesn't really read or write, so traditional education didn't work for him. So I am here to thank you so much for giving parents a choice to decide what is best for their children and what education fits them, so that when life after high school happens, they are prepared and able to go out into the world with the education that they needed. I appreciate everyone here, and thank you for letting me speak. And I'm just very, very grateful.
Well, thank you for having me here today. I am super excited about the expansion and getting rid of the wait list. I have 7 children, and they all actually receive different scholarships through Step Up. My one child in particular is on the wait list for the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Unique Abilities, so I'm really excited that he'll be able to get everything that he needs. They have these wonderful opportunities now that I was able to choose their education, and they are all doing wonderful. So thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Questions?
Yeah, Speaker, I think similar bills have been filed in past years but not passed. What makes this year different?
Well, look, I think we've continued to do material things toward the goal of universal choice, and that's exactly what this bill does in a very significant way. I think that you're going to see bipartisan support for this bill, and maybe I'm going out on a limb, but I don't think so. I think people realize more and more how powerful it can be. Look, every business, everywhere we shop, has an entrance and an exit. except in our public schools, traditionally, where you have to go to the school that you're zoned for, and that's it, whether that school meets your needs or doesn't meet your needs. And we have great public schools. There are many people that are looking to hit the entrance into public schools. In my experience, growing up in Jacksonville, many people left Jacksonville to go down to St. Johns County because the public schools are so good. But every school, like every business, should have an entrance and an exit. And if the schools are performing well, more people will hit the entrance. If they're not, more people can hit the exits. And this bill, in a powerful way, provides both an entrance and an exit to all of our schools so that we can match people up in the best way possible. And then the ESA component to the bill allows choice within choice so that you can truly get to the goal of customized education. Even brothers and sisters learn differently. Some are good in math, some are good in English. And this allows, as we look toward the Choice Navigator, to get some advice, some counseling, not dictates, but advice based on scores, based on what's going on in that child's life, which the parent uniquely knows, to further enhance and customize that child's experience so that we get the maximum potential out of every single child in the state.
Does the governor support this bill?
Well, the governor's a supporter of school choice, and we've certainly talked about it in broad terms. We just released it today. So in fairness, there's a lot of detail there, but yes, I know the governor's a big supporter of choice generally and educational freedom.
Since this bill was just released today, can you explain it a little bit more for, if a parent not necessarily a special needs, but a parent wants to change schools, what happens? Can you give me an example of what do you do if you want to go to a private school?
Well, I mean, there's choice in that realm already, and so we don't change anything there. We already have more school choice children, more people that are using choice options in this state than any other state in the country, and that's where we start. And so that mechanism's already there. That doesn't change. We're just simply making sure that no one's left out.
I want to ask you about capacity. If this were to pass and more people get open up to go to private schools, are you worried that there may not be enough campuses with spots available for an influx of students across Florida?
No, I'm not. I mean, I think you'll have many people, as I said, I grew up and went to public schools, traditional public schools my entire time. I got a good education. My mother was a public school teacher. Many people will stay right where they are because they're happy. But this is really about making sure that there's increased competition, and we're always striving to do better. And I like the word thrive in this school because we want our kids to thrive. And if they're not thriving in a particular school, that may be going from one traditional public school to another, right? That has different programs that better meet that child's need. But I don't have any concerns about that.
Mr. Renner, House Democrats are already calling this an effort to defund public education. Do you have a response to that sort of criticism?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're ignoring everything we've done. Since I've been here, we've increased funding for our traditional public schools every single year in real terms, and I expect we'll continue to do that. We spent about $500 million recently on teacher salary increases to make sure our starting teachers are among the top paid teachers in the nation, and the governor has called for, and I'm supportive of, continuing to look for ways we can increase teacher salaries in our public schools. And we'll do other things, too, that I think are going to be very exciting, and it's going to be a very good year for our traditional public schools as well.
What's the average or cap amount per student in scholarships paid for and or scholarships paid for? And is there anything in the bill or elsewhere in the statute that would have any sort of cap on? I mean, we're freezing university tuition going up, but there's nothing really stops private schools from hiking tuition to their schools if there's an influx of interest from this new legislation.
Yeah, I would just say again about going back to entrances and exits to a school, if you become non-competitive and not a good option because you're unnecessarily increasing your costs, then people will hit the exit door and go somewhere else. As terms of the per dollar amount, we are always looking to increase that. We have, as I said, ever since I've been here, increased that FEFP number, that per student number, both for our traditional public schools and for our choice programs. And I would expect we'll look to try to do that as best we can again this year.
What do you follow up? Just as a follow-up, because right now there's a cap on, I think 375% of our
Well, universal choice is universal choice. We don't pick winners and losers. However, in the bill and sets forth the priority for people that have limited income to receive scholarships. It also puts at the front of the line, and the lion's share of the funding for this bill is for children with unique abilities to make sure we clear that wait list. Because that's an awful thing where we are picking some children who have those needs to get the help they need and some children not to. So the biggest portion of funding in this bill goes to those children with unique abilities.
Would the amount of money available for each child be greater for special needs kids than for the other?
They are and they will be, yes.
When it comes to universal school choice, can you speak to how this bill expands the scope of eligibility?
Well, it does expand it to everyone, and it also adds the extra layer of what's called an ESA. So, and currently you can only use that money towards tuition and that type of thing, and now we open that up for educational purposes only for things like online tutoring, at-home tutoring, things that, as I said, even children within the same family learn differently. So you may have a child that's excelling in math but really struggling in reading. And that's another area we're going to focus on this year. They can get an in-home tutor as part of that ESA, which they can't currently do. So it creates greater flexibility, greater, I would use the word customization, so that children and parents can really customize with the help of their teachers, with the help of choice navigators, can really find the sweet spot of customization so that they get the very best every single year, which then we revisit based on scores, based on where they are in their development, to continue to tweak and customize their education all the way through from K through 12.
How much funding are you seeking with this bill?
We're working on what that amount is. As I said, the lion's share of it will be to clear the wait list for unique abilities, but there'll be other funding that goes along with that as well. And so as it goes through, and obviously there could be changes that will adjust those numbers, but it'll be an important step forward.
Why did y'all feel that you want to help homeschool parents pay for that as well?
Well, again, universal choice is universal choice. We do, however, do that in phases. So it's not every homeschool child, but we do it in phases. And again, some people will say we don't want it. Many homeschool parents don't want anything to do with that type of any kind of public funding whatsoever, and that's fine, and we respect that. Again, this is about educational freedom. It's not telling you how you're going to raise your children and how you're going to educate your children. It's about making sure that public education means empowering every child to customize the education that best suits their needs.
Relating to the funding aspect of, have you had, maybe not personally, but are you aware that there's companies out there that will take you up on like any sort of new funding that you need for expanded tax, their donations with that?
I'm not understanding your questions about tax credit scholarship or about education entrepreneurs using the ESAs.
No, about the companies that would need to do the donations with that.
Right. So we have two groups. We have the Income Tax Credit Scholarship, which is the FTC, which has been historically going back many, many years. And they raise money that basically is a payment of their taxes into a DSO in lieu of taxes. And so that will continue. There's a bucket of students that participate now in that. Nothing changes there. And then we have the FES program, the Family Empowerment Scholarship, which is in the budget. So I know that gets a little in the weeds, your question does. We're not changing those two programs per se. And so if that answers your question, those programs don't go away.
Let me follow with that
John.
even further into
Yeah.
the Step Up for Students.
Yeah.
Their role does not change in this, and their administrative costs, which they've been able to take money out of this program.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll have to hear from them on it because obviously we had a one-dimensional aspect to choice, which is tuition, and now it's multi-dimensional so that you really, again, can, and the beauty of the ESA, I think, is in customization so that we have to look and see what that means. We have choice navigators, which is a new concept that will roll out again in phase out, that will be there to assist in whatever form that takes, will be there to assist parents and students to look at their options. And then they will make the choice about what is best for them in consultation with their teachers and their schools. So that there will be a cost component, obviously, to that as we go. But we don't know what that is yet because we're going to hear from everyone in the committee process.
I guess that's what I was asking though. I guess so if saying universal for everybody. What's the need for a separate tax credit?
No, it's a great question. Over time, I think, because that was set up for historical reasons, that you'll see some migration, and in fact, there has been migration out of that one program into the Family Empowerment Scholarship, which will house, over time, will house those students.
Could you explain what you meant about the funding going in phases to those homeschooling parents?
Yeah, and the details are in the bill, but we're going and walking before we run with respect to homeschool parents, because we understand that some will decline those funds and just want to keep it the way it is. They have every right to do that. This is, again, about educational freedom for them, but we'll start introducing that. Part of that is just to make sure that we have the administration in place, that we're working with not just the students that we already know about in those two programs, the FTC and the FES program, where they're familiar with choice, the schools are familiar with how the programs work. We're adding that ESA in, but the homeschool kids have not had any of that experience, and so we want to do that in phases so that we can make sure that we get it done right.
Speaker, you were calling for this information from higher education institutions under PI.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the next step here is. Is there a piece of legislation that you're going to work on crafting to try and curtail some things that are happening in higher education? Or where do you want to go?
Yeah, and so let me talk about that. And you're referring to the concept or this branding of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're all for diversities. And so if we're talking about making sure we're encouraging students in first-generation families who have never attended college, or kids who are coming from impoverished backgrounds or difficult, challenged backgrounds, we absolutely want to encourage that kind of diversity. We also, in the legislature, have promoted diversity of thought, free speech, making sure all ideas are heard on campus. We are fully supportive of that kind of diversity. What has happened, though, under this branding that none of us disagree with is, I believe, and you've seen in other states, a weaponization of that for a narrow ideological purpose. We cannot have a situation where those offices function as political commissars or overseers of what's taught, of whether a professor gets tenure or not, whether they even get hired or not. So we're opening up that question with an open mind, not knowing the answer of what's happening in our state. There may not be issues, but we want to see we have the same situation that we have in other states where that's absolutely happening. And I suspect it's happening here in Florida, and we want to root that out. We want to keep the focus of education on education. And so I can say that I expect, and we've had a great relationship with the Board of Governors, who have done a fantastic job overall in bringing Florida's higher ed to #1 in the nation. And we can only undermine that by going in a path of political weaponization. We need to keep the focus and that money that we're spending on DEI, on labs, on the things that really matter to giving kids the skills, knowledge that they need to go out and, again, thrive once they graduate from college.
Mr. Renner, on HB1, is there a timeline in your mind for this kind of rollout?
Yeah, so we're going to notice it this afternoon. We'll have hearings on it in committee next week, and we'll continue pushing it forward. And
as far as the expansion goes, you talked about like a walk and then run phase.
Yeah.
When do you foresee this to be fully functional?
Well, it'll be fully functional, most of it, as soon as it's passed, in the upcoming school year. But some of it, because of logistics and making sure we get it done right, will be phased in.
Do you know how many students approximately are on the wait list and stuff now?
I don't know the exact number. We'll get that to you, but I can tell you it's significant enough, because it's a significant amount to get them off the wait list. But I just don't think it's morally acceptable for us to do what we've been doing, which is keep, summer in, summer out. We're picking winners and losers there, and these are kids that need early intervention, and we're going to get that to them. We're not going to let happen to kids that are coming up in school now face the situation that I know that Jessica and her family faced. And I wish we could turn back the clock. We can't, but we're going to move forward and make sure that every single child in this state has those resources, especially our kids with unique abilities.
Is there a accountability or oversight as a part of this bill that deals with how this money, overseeing how this money might be spent? If a parent wanted to spend the money on tutoring for diversity, equity, and
Anything else that might be a hot topic, so to speak? Is there any kind of component of the bill?
There is. In terms of the ESA, we've limited in some fashion to things that are clearly in the educational lane. So some states have opened that up to purchasing uniforms and doing other things that don't have a direct educational purpose. So the bill limits it to things that we would all agree on have an educational purpose. And then there's also some language that allows, at least in the short run, for an approved list that the DSO can allow a menu of options to the parent rather than a purchase and a reimbursement back. But we'll see how that plays out. I look forward to hearing from all of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, going through the committee process on how best to do that. But we do have accountability in mind, absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
On an unrelated topic.
Unrelated topic? Okay.
Unrelated topic?
Sure.
I want to ask you about abortion restrictions.
Yeah.
We're a couple of weeks now into the committee hearing. So far, no movement on that topic. That's a subject that you have said before.
Yeah.
Are you planning a bill soon? And wondering about the majority of the in this poll still support current law.
We have, sure.
Why is there a need for more?
Well, you've seen today, and you'll see this is HB1, and you'll see in the coming weeks a lot of, I believe, very transformational legislation that's going to come through this year. We've talked about the future of Florida and the Infrastructure Strategies Committee. I mean, big issues, and I know that our Senate partners are working on some very transformational changes that will make the lives of Floridians better. But life is important too, and so the timing of that, is yet to be determined. We have not, finalized anything in that regard, and we'll continue talking to our members within our majority. We have a pro-life majority. Some of that, when you break that down, have people that want to be where we are. Some people want to be much more in the direction of life, and in between. And so we'll respectfully continue that dialogue at some point if we have a bill. And as I said before, the beauty of the committee process is that we get a lot of chance for a lot of conversation, a lot of dialogue about what is the right balance there. And so, but nothing to announce today. Okay, thank you.